Alright, so as many of you know, I have been on a bit of a Galapagos kick because I am just about to go to the Galapagos. In a few days, I will be going. So we are watching the final Harper & Row Publishers program on the Galapagos that I at least have found. There might be more, but this is the last one that I actually have access to. And this one is called the Galapagos Finches. Publication date 1971. And if you'll remember, we already watched another program very similar called Darwin's Finches, but that one wasn't made by the same people that have made most of the other programs that we've watched. This is by the same people that have made all the other ones. So this should fit more into the, film style and everything that we've seen before. So it should feel like we're watching more of the same. But I am excited because at the end of the other Darwin's Finches video, I did say that I wanted to see more of the finches. I don't feel like we got to see enough of them in that one, and I want to see more of them in this. So hopefully, I actually said something specific too, I think. I remember saying I wanted to see a comparison of all their beaks in size next to each other, or at least a few of them, because we didn't really get to see like the graphical comparison, and that's what I really think I found myself wanting, which is good to know for when I go and make my video about the Galapagos. But let's see if they provide us with a better illustration of the Galapagos finches. Alright, Galapagos Laboratory for Evolution. Again, this phrase has been seen everywhere. Yeah, for one last time, shout out to the University of California, Berkeley, and Los Angeles. I can't believe I'm going to the Galapagos. That's crazy. I'm so excited. Financed by a grant from the National Science Foundation. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Oh, see, we're already doing better. Without anything even happening, we get a shot of a book like this. This is like my favorite sort of aesthetic.
The tropical bird life of the Americas. Rich and complex.
Dude, is this a different narrator? I feel like all of these have had different narrators. One was a woman, that was definitely different, but this one also sounds like not the same guy that I listened to last week. I don't know.
Some 1,800 species, using every food source the surroundings offer.
Let me just comment on this hand actor real quick, because let me tell you, it is not easy to flip through a book and land on the right pages like he just did in one shot every time. Like, this is actually, from a hand acting perspective, this is an amazing performance. Like, I have had to do this for my videos too, where I like flip through a book, and let me tell you, it takes several attempts, and none of my shots are ever this complicated. He has just flipped through this entire book and landed on every page perfectly. Just an underappreciated aspect of all of this. Like, good for this hand actor. I don't know who it is. I don't even know if they'll appear in the credits. It's probably one of the narrators or something, but I gotta say it. I appreciate it. I recognize it. Game gotta respect game.
A common seed eater, the rufous-collared sparrow.
See, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we're getting to see like up close graphics of these birds. This is what I wanted.
Across 500 miles.
Okay, so we just got a weird little audio glip there is what I guess I'm going with. So that was weird. We just didn't get a full explanation of really that whole statement, but I guess we'll just keep carrying on.
Of open ocean, the Galapagos Islands. Here, another common main...
Yeah, another audio glip. We just lost out on some sort of audio. I don't know what it was, but lost media again.
Mainland bird, the blue-gray tanager, which lives on a mixed diet of insects.
Dude, these are such great shots. What's so funny is this looks exactly like my videos. I literally have a book of Galapagos birds. You can probably see it. It's back there. It's literally right behind me. And it's literally pictures like this. I won't go grab it, but I literally have like the same exact thing. This is like identical to what my video on the Galapagos is going to be like. It was just so funny. Again, that's what's so interesting about watching these old programs, is how clearly they reflect the same sort of like media that is being consumed on YouTube, at least on my corner of YouTube right now. Like, these are so similar to the videos I'm making, like the visuals, the topics, the everything, the narration, all of it. It's so similar to Atlas Pro and everything I do that it makes watching these so much more interesting. Like, I learned so much about my own work by watching these.
Berries and fruits. In the Galapagos, sustained by the same sort of mixed diet, is Camarhynchus psittacula, a finch. Still another mainland bird, the black-faced dacnus.
See, we're not even talking about Galapagos finches yet, but I'm already just digging the visuals. We are doing good right now.
Primarily an insect eater. In the Galapagos, similar habits are seen in Certhidia olivacea, a finch. How does it happen that finches have come to play so many roles in the Galapagos?
See, I feel like it set up the premise of this question kind of weakly. I don't know. I feel like I wasn't following what it was saying until it just started talking about the Galapagos. Maybe that's because I'm stopping to interject my thoughts, but I don't know. I feel like this whole statement didn't carry.
And what does this tell us about the process of evolution?
What does it tell us? Wow, it just poses that question and then just like fades off into silence. Hopefully we get around to answering it. Well, this is 20 minutes. This is way longer than the usual Galapagos documentaries. So this should be interesting. We should really get into it, actually. I didn't realize that. Wow. Oh, wow, that's just the intro right here, too. That's so funny. All right, the Galapagos Finches. We are in for a good one on this one. Oh, man, I can't believe I'm going. I'm so excited. This is like, it's been so crazy watching all these with the knowledge that I'm actually going to be going here. It puts a whole different lens on these. Our producer, Chris Christensen, shout out to Chris Christensen and Robert Bauman. We've seen this guy before. This might be the last time we see him, actually. But, you know, one last shout out to Robert Bauman. He really did his homework for this one.
By 1835, the Galapagos had been part of the known world for nearly 3 centuries.
See, I just feel like this narrator is so much more dry than the other narrators we've had. I don't know if it's the same one, but it feels like a different person.
Ships and men of all sorts had called here or been blown this way by chance. Adventurers, pirates, traders, whalers. They took what the island...
Was there an actual thing called an adventurer back in the day? Like, were there actual people who just friggin' sailed to the Galapagos for fun? I don't know. Like, that seems like such an awesome thing to be. That seems like something that exists in video games, but not in real life. I don't know. An adventurer. I don't know if that's just an interesting use of language or if that was an actual, like, thing.
...had to offer and went their way. But in 1835, a British survey vessel, HMS Beagle, arrived here. On board was a young naturalist who would be the first to comprehend what the Galapagos could do.
You know, that does put the Galapagos in an interesting perspective, that they had been known to humanity for like 300 years or so, right? 1500s? Darwin came in the 1800s? Yeah, 300 years. That is interesting. I never really thought about it, but there had been like a long history of people on these islands far before Darwin ever showed up, which is interesting because it means he must have arrived at least with the habitat partially destroyed. You know, he didn't get to see the Galapagos in their like 100% pristine form. I don't know how much they had been devastated by this point. Obviously, I think people definitely had hunted like the tortoises and everything, but I don't know how many animals had been introduced or anything. So it's hard to know exactly what he actually experienced in the Galapagos, but I guess that's something I never really thought about, that he wasn't visiting a pristine environment. He was visiting a place that had been inhabited by humans for at least 300 years. Very interesting again. You know, I can't believe I've watched so many of these and I'm only just now realizing that.
Tell us about the nature of living things. Charles Darwin.
Nothing could be less inviting than the first appearance. The dry and parched surface...
That's a really funny thing for Darwin to say, that nothing was attractive about these islands to begin with.
...being heated by the noonday sun, gave to the air a close and sultry feeling. The brushwood appears, from a short distance, as leafless as our trees during winter. And it was some time before I discovered that not...
You know, this is not the sort of inflection that I would have read Darwin in. It just makes him seem like kind of a prissy. I don't know. He might be like an educated Englishman, kind of an accent, but I don't know. It just makes him seem like uptight or, you know, stuck up or something. I don't know.
Not only was almost every plant now in full leaf, but that the greater number were in flower.
It is interesting what he said, though, that how most of the plants were leafless, just like trees in the winter, because these are pretty much desert islands. They are right on the equator, so they do get a lot of heat, not a lot of rain, except for the tops of the mountains. So I guess that is a good observation at the very least. Yeah, wow, cheer it up for Darwin. Good at making observations.
Bizarre forms of life almost seemed the rule here. Someone like Robert Fitzroy, the Beagle's captain, could explain it easily. This is one of those provisions of infinite wisdom by which each thing is adapted to its intended place. But Darwin looked.
Yeah, see, that is an interesting thing that they finally have mentioned. I think I talked about this in one of these, but the prevailing thought prior to Darwin going on this expedition was that God had created every animal very specifically for the environment that they lived. So when they found weird animals on the Galapagos and elsewhere, they kind of just assumed that this was God's way of making the most perfect animal for the bizarre place that they were. I guess I probably would have believed if I had been told that from the time I had been born. Like that's not, I don't know, that doesn't sound crazy, I guess, to me. It makes Darwin's thought process all the more impressive to realize that he was able to escape that, that thought.
And wondered.
But it took him coming to a place like this and seeing an animal like this to really come to that conclusion. For what it's worth, I don't think we've seen anything about the blue-footed boobies this whole time. I've watched how many things on the Galapagos, and I don't even know if we've mentioned the blue-footed boobies even once, which is really funny because it's one of the most iconic animals of the Galapagos, but...
Considering the small size of these islands, we feel the more astonishment at the number of their aboriginal beings and at their confined range.
Number of aboriginal beings. I wonder if that's the word that they used before, endemic. I don't know. I don't know what else he would mean by that, but that's just a funny use of the word aboriginal.
Seeing every...
You only hear a select group of people referred to as aboriginals anymore, not just native in general. But I guess that was just the connotation of the word aboriginal back then.
Height crowned with its crater, and the...
Oh man, these cactuses. I can't wait to see these cactuses. These are one of the things that I didn't even really know about when I first started watching all these videos, but now they're one of the most exciting things here, I
boundaries
think.
of most of the lava streams still distinct, we are led to believe that within a period geologically recent...
Oh, the crabs. Please explain the crabs.
The unbroken ocean was here spread out. Hence, both in...
Oh, the flamingos. We learned about that, didn't we? That there were, these are the only flamingos here or something?
Space and time, we seem to be brought somewhat near to that great fact, that mystery of mysteries, the first appearance of new beings on the earth.
Oh, here we go, the flightless cormorant. There we go. We learned about that last week.
So many new things to see and ponder in hopes of solving that mystery.
See, it is a different narrator. It just changed the narrators in the middle of it. I knew there was something funny happening here. I don't know. I thought I was going crazy there for a second. It's totally a different narrator, though.
The commoner forms were also collected, but in a routine way. The verdict of an earlier...
Or whether they're just reading the words of Darwin the whole time. Is that the case?
Brought somewhat near to that great fact, that mystery of mysteries, the first appearance of new beings on the earth.
Oh, maybe that was just the Darwin voice actor. Maybe I just forgot that because I've been watching it for so long.
So many new things to see and ponder in hopes of solving that mystery. The commoner forms were also collected, but in a routine way. The verdict of an earlier visitor, Colnet in 1792, seemed valid. There were no great number of land birds, and those I saw were not remarkable for their novelty or beauty. Then Darwin learned an odd fact. Old hands in the Galapagos could look at the details of a tortoiseshell and tell which island the creature had come from. Darwin took
See, this is a fact that I didn't even hear from the program on the Galapagos tortoise, that he sort of learned about evolution from their shells as well. This is an interesting story. I don't know about this. I just want, I feel like I should have learned about this in that other program, but I guess we're doing it here.
in what he'd called the few dull-colored birds around him.
Oh, wow, that was the whole story. They didn't go into it anymore. So that's interesting, though, that the different shells, or that people from the islands were able to tell the tortoises apart based on their shells and where they came from. That is very interesting. That does sound like another really good clue.
Did they also differ in recognizable ways from island to island?
Yeah, it's funny hearing his thought process, because it all does sound so obvious. It's just so funny that no one had gone through this before, or no one had the language and grasp of earth science to go through this thought process before. It's just, again, it is an amazing place and an amazing fact that, Darwin came up with these ideas at this place. It really is amazing. I don't know. That's all I have to say about it.
Darwin was forced to admit he
never dreamed that islands about 50 or 60 miles apart and most of them in sight of each other, formed of precisely the same rocks, placed under a quite similar climate, rising to nearly equal height, would have been differently tenanted.
But such seemed to be the case.
Yeah, that was a funny reading of Darwin's words again. Very, I don't know, very peculiar voice acting, or very peculiar portrayal of Darwin's voice, I guess.
The finch-like body form was essentially the same in all the various birds to be found on individual islands.
But that is a very pertinent point that he just said, that the islands are like within sight of each other and have a very noticeable difference in their ecology and in their plants and animal communities. It's just like, this is one of the places where it's just so obvious. The evolution is on display so clearly if you're just willing to accept it,
Islands and throughout the island group. But there were marked differences to be seen in the size and shape of the beaks.
Like, I don't know if I ever would have noticed this bird as being particular in any sort of way, like hands off to Darwin for making this the thing that he noticed about these islands.
At one extreme, a narrow, pointed, warbler-like beak. This species, classified later as Certhidea olivacea, occurs on all of the 16 main islands of the Galapagos group. At the other extreme, the huge wedge-shaped beak of the species eventually called Geospiza magnarosa.
You see, that is a very peculiar beak for a bird to have. Like, I wouldn't notice that that's a weird beak, I feel like, but I wouldn't put it all together. I'm not, a genius like Darwin, but it helps me appreciate Darwin's genius seeing these birds. Oh my God, this is exactly what I wanted to. I forgot about that, but we're getting to see the birds up close in the beak size. Yes, I forgot about that. We're getting there. We're seeing it. Yes, all right. And we're getting to understand Darwin's genius through it all. Oh, wow, this is good. All right, we're having a good time. Let's keep going.
Found on 13 islands. Darwin, knowing now that his specimens had to be separated island by island, collected enough birds to establish by later study that between these two extremes was an almost...
Oh wow, you're even getting to see, I don't know if these are Darwin's real drawings. I know he did make drawings, so these might be like replications of his drawings, which if that's the case, these are really awesome. Even if that's not the case, these are still pretty cool.
Almost perfectly graded sequence of intermediate forms. A possibility suggested itself.
Seeing this gradation and diversity of structure in one small, intimately related group of birds, one might really...
See, that was pretty important what he just said there. In one small, interrelated group of birds. That's what made the Galapagos so good to study, is that all of these islands were closely related to one another, but distantly related to the mainland.
Fancy that from an original paucity of birds in this archipelago, one species had been taken and...
Dude, shout out to a correct reading of the word archipelago. You don't see those very often. You don't hear those very often, I should say.
Modified for different ends.
Some 20 years later, in The Origin of Species, Darwin offered his explanation of the process by which, over endless ages, life forms had been taken and modified. The Galapagos are less remote now than they were in the Beagle's day.
See, this is interesting too. You actually get to see like the human-occupied part of the Galapagos, because this is also like most of what I'm going to see when I'm there. So this is actually like what's important for me to see, I guess. I mean, not really, but important for me to at least be familiar with for when I'm there. Oh wow, this is the ferry right here. This is awesome. So yeah, this is I guess Puerto Ayore or something. We haven't gotten to see like any of the human establishments in any of the previous programs. So even these few shots, hopefully we see more, but even what we've seen so far is already more than what we've seen in the past.
Some signs of...
Oh, hang on, can I read these real quick too? All right, I hope I'm not holding any of you up, but Isla San Cristobal, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. Animales y aves. It's in English. All the animals and birds of the islands, as in the whole archipelago, with exception of the goats, are strictly protected by law. It is forbidden to remove any of them without special permission. All right, that makes sense.
The present are apparent. But
Yeah, this might be like the most shocking aspect of the Galapagos. Is not only are they like a beautiful, pristine nature preserve, but they're also like home to a few thousand people. It just life on the Galapagos to me seems like so bizarre. It must be so normal to them, but it's so wild to think that people get to live on the Galapagos, let alone just be like not impoverished, but like not like I don't know, rich. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say anything until I go there.
Outside the few settlements, the Galapagos are still enough the same that it's possible to reconstruct the evidence by which Darwin was able to solve that mystery of mysteries, the first appearance of new beings on the Earth. The conditions that would have to be built in...
That was a great shot of just the water. Great, whoever, I think it was Robert Bauman on the camera, and with some other guys too, but, shout out to the cameraman again.
...to a modern environmental laboratory were naturally present here.
I gotta remember to get shots like that for myself, of panning from one island to another and trying to get that green-blue water in the mix too. Like that is really what you want. Like I gotta write that down in here.
It was a closed experimental system. The Galapagos group isolated from the mainland, the islands isolated from each other. Geologically, they were young islands of known volcanic origin, so it was possible to know the Earth.
Dude, I love these freaking cactuses once again. They're just so funny. What are they doing there?
Earliest time when experimentation could have begun here.
Like, they definitely don't belong in this huge lava flow. Sorry.
Since the higher islands all offer several foliage zones, with a resulting variety of food sources, a broad and complex range of experiments was possible here. The evolutionary laboratory was here. All that was lacking was a population sample, suitable guinea pigs. There is no evidence that a land bridge to South America ever existed. We can theorize that wind...
That's an odd statement to make. I'm pretty sure there actually is evidence of a land bridge between South America and North America existing. There's evidence of it right now, you could say.
...and storms, freaks of nature coming at rare intervals, brought the Galapagos some of its population. A random process of drift and wandering.
Yeah, I guess he meant there was no evidence that a land bridge between the Galapagos and South America existed. That makes more sense. Yeah, but people call the Panama and, Central America a land bridge, so that's where I got confused. But yeah, so there is no evidence. Yeah, these islands are purely volcanic. That honestly goes without saying. Like, I don't even know if you needed to bring up land bridges. I guess some people might have suggested that back in the day, back in Darwin's day. That might have been something they said to, counter him, but I don't think anyone would even come up with that idea today.
We can theorize that winds and storms, freaks of nature coming at rare intervals, brought the Galapagos some of its population. A random process...
That's also one of my favorite aspects of island biogeography, like the purely unknown factor of when things actually got there and how. Like, nobody can actually definitively explain how a lot of the flora and fauna arrived on any of these islands. Like, we just have to take it as some random fact that they did one day,
Of drift and wandering over the enormous span of geological time would account for the rest. Darwin guessed as much.
Most of the organic productions are aboriginal creatures found nowhere else, yet all show a marked relationship with those of America. The archipelago is a little world within itself, or rather a satellite attached...
A world within itself. That's funny because that's the name of one of the other Darwin programs that we read. I guess they took that directly from Darwin's writings.
...to America, whence it has derived a few stray colonists.
I wonder, did he really use the word satellite? I guess it might have had a different, more similar meaning to what it has now. That just seems like such a strange word for Darwin to have used to describe the Galapagos. I mean, it's true. It's just, I didn't realize people from the 1800s used the word satellite like that. But I guess that's probably where it comes from.
We can't say when the finches got here.
But that was a very good assessment. Obviously, Darwin knew what he was talking about. He was figuring it out as he went along, but you can tell from his writings alone that he was a very smart man.
Or how. We can't even really say that finch is the true ancestral form of the present birds. But birds with more or less this body shape and a beak of some sort did arrive in the Galapagos as stray colonists. The beak, whatever its shape, had been suited to the food source.
Dude, see, they're also showing us footage of a bird using its specialized beak for its specialized purpose. Again, this is something that we didn't really get in the last one that we are really getting now. This is honestly so much better than the last Finches video, but you know what? That's fine. They're both good in different ways.
Sources available to them in South America. Now there was a new range of sources, and not nearly as many competitors as before. The laboratory had its guinea pig. The experiment began. Could a paucity of birds be taken and modified?
Dude, I love the voiceover too. Like his acting, his like cadence. It's so like robotic and like, I don't know, it's the same thing that I get criticized for in mine. That's why I say I love it, because you can clearly tell that he's, I don't know, reading it off of a script. It's just, even people on YouTube today still read in this like weird boxy robotic voice that even he is imitating because he's reading off of a predetermined script. It's just, it's so funny.
For different ends.
We're separated by, what, 50 years, but we're exactly the same.
Food, though plentiful in the Galapagos, is a problem in other respects. Nothing can live here, except in the moist uplands, unless it is able to withstand heat and periodic drought. Seeds have thick coatings. Insects, burrowing after moisture and shelter, are inaccessible. So the food sources all put some special demand on the finch. Biting or crushing.
See, again, now it's describing every different act the beak needs to partake in to enable the bird to access, resources or whatever, which is just like, again, this is what I wanted. I wanted a description of like how every single beak set was used on what sort of seeds or what sort of purpose, crushing versus, picking up delicately, I'm glad we're getting it here. That's all I gotta say.
Or probing. The ancestral bird could only exploit its new surroundings if one tool, the beak, could be made to do many jobs. A single tool, modified in subtle ways, can do many jobs.
And they got some fantastic photography too. Let's not forget that like every single shot that we're seeing was got by the people who, created this. So the fact that they got all these shots of birds eating in specific ways, like that's a very difficult thing to get, and it makes you wonder if they got these shots by accident or, by circumstances, or if they like made them by like going to the zoo or something and getting them. I don't know if they just have access to Darwin's finches at like some sort of zoo or anything, but if it's all natural photography or if there is like a staged aspect to some of these shots, I don't know. It seems like it's all like legitimately, on the fly, as you get it, but it's such amazing photography at the same time that you have to think there might be a little bit more artifice behind this than I actually expect.
The beaks, as we see them now, are almost like pliers of various sorts.
Dude, this is the exact thing that I did in high school biology class to learn about this. The different, plier sorts to pick up the different seed sizes. It's funny that this lesson is still being taught.
A pair of heavy-duty lineman's pliers is best suited to biting and crushing. So is the beak of Geospiza conirostris.
Dude, what did I say? I wanted to see the graphics of the beaks, and what are we looking at? The graphics of the beaks. I am a satisfied boy.
Diagonal pliers serve much the same use. So does the beak of Camarhynchus sitacula.
Dude, and I love that it just fades to the shape, the line drawing shape of the beak. No like animation or anything. It's crude animation, which is, I love. I know it's obviously boring. Obviously it would be more exciting to have movement in the animation, but they weren't really capable of that back in the day. But for them to be including anything at all is just, it's entertaining to say the least.
Parrot-head pliers have crushing strength all along the jaws and a strong bite at the tip. So does the beak of Platyspiza crassirostris.
Like, I don't know what the audience is really supposed to do with this information, Like, are kids in class, like, drawing these as fast as they possibly can? Or, like, what's the point of even showing it? I like that the people who made this knew that the people who were going to watch it wanted to know the shapes of these beaks, because that's the whole basis of the argument. The whole basis is that they're shaped differently for different purposes. So we want to see the different shapes and the different purposes. So this is what we're finally getting. It's hard to show people the shapes and have something to say. It's just they're struggling to show us and tell us at the same time. It's just, again, it's funny.
Chain nose pliers enable the user to probe and bite sharply at the tip. The beak of Cactuspiza pallida has the same usage. Needle-nose pliers can probe into hard-to-reach places and grasp objects inside them. Certhidia olivacea uses its beak in...
See, you know, that was a clever little fade transition they did, though. They almost put the shape of the beak inside that hole so that, you know, you didn't have to do that thinking yourself. You know, it wasn't perfect, but they definitely put that idea in your head with their filmmaking technique, for sure.
This way. Curved needle-nose pliers refine the probing and grasping usage one step further. So does the beak of Pineroloxius inornata. But how did the process of change, by which these and other beaks resulted, come about? Darwin suggested an answer.
No one supposes that all the individuals of the same species are identical. These individual differences...
See, I like how he built his foundation for his argument on stuff like that, because that is something that even like a village person who was uneducated would like agree with, you know, like no two cows are exactly the same, no two birds, no two people. I feel like that is a fair argument to even somebody who like perfectly believes in Christianity, you know?
are of the highest importance, for they are often inherited, as everyone knows. They thus afford a material for natural selection to act on and accumulate.
See, you know, that really is the brilliant part of this all, is that, like, it really is just, like, self-evident in, like, the structure of, like, evolution has to happen, you know? If it doesn't happen, then, like, nothing happens. Obviously, it's simple for me to understand now, having learned about it, but, you know, you have to appreciate coming to these conclusions for the first time still.
Actually, the harsh demands of survival in the Galapagos serve to encourage a process of change.
When in former times an immigrant settled on any one or more of the islands, or when it subsequently spread from one island to another, it would undoubtedly be exposed to different conditions of life. If then it varied, natural selection would probably favor different varieties in the different islands.
Again, very simple statement that, like, anyone who's gone through high school biology would agree with, but, like, you know, so foundational to our understanding of life on Earth as it works right now, you know. This always makes me appreciate Darwin so much more, learning about, like, seeing the exact things that he saw to make him come to these conclusions just always makes me appreciate him all the more.
The process of change, as a later writer summarized it, is simple. New forms originate when forms differentiated in geographical isolation later meet in the same region and keep distinct.
Yeah, shout out to geographical isolation.
The meeting of two forms in the same region must, when both persist, result in subdivision of the food or habitat. The repetition of this process has produced the adaptive radiation of Darwin's finches. The same limits are imposed on all living things in the Galapagos. Aridity and instability. These are facts of life here. It's no place for a specialist. Survival depends on opportunism and versatility in food getting. All the Galapagos land birds show these traits to some degree, but the finches show the widest range of activity.
You know, this might be off topic, but Hawaii also has a very similar set of birds. I think the grosbeaks or something like that, and I don't know, I feel like the Hawaiian birds are actually a lot more colorful and like a lot more interesting to study. I don't know why I felt like interjecting that fact, but I guess I made a whole video about it, that's why. I'm curious what Darwin would have thought if he had gotten to see the birds on Hawaii as well.
Even their day-to-day habits are noteworthy. It is common to see a bird move objects 20 to 30 times its own weight in quest of seeds and insects.
Dang, these birds are just moving these rocks? That is impressive, because that rock probably is, like, as heavy as the bird. And it's picking it up with its beak. Oh, you know, that's probably why they're showing it. See, such good footage. How'd they get footage? Like, how, you know, that just, you don't appreciate that they have footage of all the things that they're talking about, you know? It really is amazing. Like, how long must they have spent in the Galapagos to get footage of everything? Because we've seen this whole series by now, and, like, they really got a lot of good footage there.
On Culpeper Island, the sharp-beaked sparrowfinch, Geospiza difficilis, will sometimes feed on eggs. Normally, the adult birds won't leave them unguarded, but if they do, the finches don't hesitate to make a meal of them. Ticks on the hides of iguanas are part of the diet of the small-beaked sparrowfinch.
I still can't get over the fact that they have ticks on the Galapagos. Like, you would imagine that they wouldn't be able to cross like 800 miles of ocean, but I guess so.
Geospiza filiginosa. It benefits the iguanas as well. A source of irritation is removed. The benefits are less apparent in the relation between the boobies of Wayman Island and the resident subspecies of Geospiza difficilis.
Oh yeah, this was the really bizarre bird, right? I feel like I didn't get to see enough of this bird before. It like taps into its like back area until it bleeds, and then it like drinks the blood of the bird. It's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen, actually. Look at how the bird is walking to it. It's literally covering up its behind with its wings. That's so funny. Or maybe a little bit sad, but I guess, I guess that's nature for you. Yeah, look at it. Oh, it's just like pecking into its flesh. Oh my gosh.
Probably this feeding pattern also began with the finches removing pests.
Like, how bizarre. Oh my gosh. Like, how does this even evolve? I know the narrator's explaining it as I speak, but Jesus Christ, I don't know. I don't know how this happens. Like, this is kind of an abomination.
Naturally, the sharp-beaked birds would...
And the birds just let it happen. It's so weird. I don't get it, still.
...sometimes draw blood. And apparently, over the course of time, they came to exploit this food source regularly.
Like, does the big bird get anything out of it? No, right? It's just like a parasitic relationship. It's just like, I don't get it. I don't get how this happens. This shouldn't happen. This is against the will of nature too. I don't know why. It seems like it's not, but I don't know. It seems wrong. That was a great shot of the bird turning towards camera. That was like, the comedic value of that shot was high. Yeah, I'd be hiding in a tree too if there were birds pecking my like tailbone to bleed to drink it. Like, geez, oh my God, I'm done with these birds. Why are we even learning about these? Isn't this about the Galapagos finches? I mean, I guess there is a very special beak to be grown to drink the blood of a bird out of its butt, but I don't know if we needed to learn about it. Is it a finch even? I don't even think so.
Blood is not the mainstay of their diet. They live on a mixture of seeds, insects, and plant materials. But
this is definitely the most hardcore bird on the island by far, though. If it is a finch, that is wild. Good, that finch went hard.
Their vampire-like habits may help get them through periods when food or water are scarce.
I guess they are finches, right? That's probably why we are learning about them. That is wild. I feel like I have never heard this evolutionary trait be associated with Darwin's finches, but I guess that's why we're learning about it. I guess I was never taught about these in class. Like, you get the classic example of the tweezers that pick up one seed and like the wrench that picks up like another seed or whatever, but you don't get the bird's like bloody tailbone seed demonstration ever. So maybe that's why I'm so surprised by this.
Darwin, in his brief stay in the Galapagos,
Dude, is this bird about to use a tool for real?
did not happen to see the most remarkable feeding adaptation of all, the use of tools by Cactus
Oh yeah, it is about to use a tool.
Spisa pallida and Cactus Spisa hiliobatus.
It's about to poke that little needle into that hole to try to get a grub or something, isn't it? See, that's so fascinating. Like, I mean, the other bird was kind of weird, but this is really cool. Because this is more than just like physiological evolution. This is like behavioral evolution too. Like, I wonder how much brain development needed to happen before this bird could solve this equation like this. Or maybe it arrived being able to solve it. Maybe birds are just smarter than I give them credit for. Who knows?
Tool use suggests intelligence at a level which one would only have expected to see in the primates. It's hard to guess how Darwin's thinking might have been influenced by such a sight as this.
Yeah, I wonder if Darwin ever actually witnessed this taking place. Like, I don't know how much time he spent, probably only like a few weeks or maybe some months, but this seems like a pretty hard thing to really capture or to even see. Again, shout out to the photographers for getting this footage. I really, like, how long did it take them until they've actually got a bird to do all this right in front of them? Wow, after all that, and it didn't even need the tool. Like, it might have been feeling around in it or something, but like it just went in with its beak and got the grub on the first try. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that tool was actually all that useful.
The range of differences to be seen in the finches is so broad. The lines between one species and another are so indefinite. Are we really
I made a whole video about that too.
justified in regarding them as distinct variations on a single ancestral form, and not just what one writer called a hybrid swarm? The evidence of a common ancestor is clear. All Darwin's finches build a recognizably similar nest.
See, that's kind of funny that they're quoting the nests as like evidence that they're evolutionarily related, because I don't know, as a scientist, I don't know if that argument really holds any water. Like the birds could build similar nests because they have similar building materials. I mean, maybe they are similar sizes. I don't know. I don't know if this argument really is the strongest in my opinion.
Other resemblances can be seen. The color of their eggs, plumage, beak colors, the palate form.
I also don't know if we needed to take this nest out of the tree just to give us this demonstration. Like, we could have seen what it looked like from in the tree as well.
And jaw musculature, the unspecialized digestive tract, a recognizably similar pattern of
Like, I'm not allowed to do this in the Galapagos. I can't just take a bird's nest and like tear it open like this, you know? Like, it's just wrong, you know?
flight. The question of species lines is harder to answer. Everyone, from Darwin on, has agreed that the finches are baffling to classify. But field observations confirm that forms differentiated in geographical isolation do meet in the same region and keep distinct. A female Geospiza fuliginosa explores the nest prepared by a male of her species. A male of another species attempts to intrude. The male fuliginosa comes to the defense of the nest and his intended mate.
Dang, see, this I feel like they should be playing music for, because this is like an intense, you know, violent scene we're about to witness, I think.
The intrusion and the defensive response by the male are mostly a matter of territorial rights. The male may lose the nest, but not the mate. Whatever the outcome of the fight, she will still react to subtle differences in the rival. Either she will refuse to mate, or the mating will be infertile.
I wonder if this is the nest that they just took apart a second ago. It kind of looks like it, but I guess that's also kind of the point. Oh wow, we're getting to see some birds reproduce. That's interesting. You know, I never really understood how birds do it, to be honest, and I never expected the male to hover above while flapping its wings as furiously as possible. That is an interesting take. It's like coming in for a landing, you know?
The investigations which began with
Again, shout out to the photography for this. Like, oh my gosh, like how long do they have to wait in order to get to witness this like mating ritual, you know? Like, I don't know. Just, they did a good job. That's all I gotta say.
began with Darwin have answered the major questions as to structural adaptation by the finches. But a whole new range of questions can be raised as to behavioral adaptation. Vocalization is an example. The song varies with each species, and there even is a given song.
Oh, that was a hard cut. I don't know what we just missed out on, but we lost something. You know, a man overboard, I guess. I guess we'll never know what just happened, but it doesn't seem like we lost much. So let's just keep going.
Suited to a particular habitat? Does it improve communication among the birds and give them one more means by which to subdivide a locale and make better use of it? On Tower Island, the foliage is sparse and scattered.
Oh, Oh, so now we're listening to like bird calls. That's interesting. I guess that is more scientifically sound than bird nests, at least when it comes to determining species. I don't know if that's really true. I can very easily see the same species sing different songs, but I don't know. Let's just hear them out, I guess.
Geospiza magnorostris there has a clear and penetrating song, which carries well over open ground. On Santa Cruz, the vegetation is dense and brushy. The song of Geospiza magnorostris there has a buzzing quality, a sound well suited to penetrate a mass of foliage.
Yeah, is that really enough to like differentiate species though? I don't know.
Charles Darwin, pondering what he saw on these islands, arrived at a general solution to that mystery of mysteries, the first appearance of new beings on the Earth. But other questions remain, and the Galapagos may supply some of the answers.
Dang, see, I feel like these need music. It feels like they were edited with music and it was edited out or something, because they have these weird pauses that can only be explained if there was like a soundtrack behind it. Like that must have come to a climax that we just didn't get to hear or something. But all right, shout out to George A. Bartholomew. He definitely was the leading mind behind all this. Let's see. Location photography, Tony, Peter, and Robert Bauman. Yeah, Robert Bauman. Additional photography by Bernard Selling. Okay, so there was a bunch of hands on deck for the photography department. That's what I was saying. It's impressive the amount of footage that they got. Yep, that was it. So that was pretty good. That's actually exactly what I wanted out of this. I said it at the beginning. I guess I asked and I received. I can't complain about that at all. And I feel like with that, I'm fully prepared for my trip to the Galapagos. I hope all of you feel like you're prepared to go to the Galapagos. I feel like you all feel like you've already gone to the Galapagos, because that's actually how I feel. But now that I'm gonna go, the next time I record for this, I will have gone to the Galapagos. And I don't know if I'll mention anything because that's not really what this channel's about, but you will definitely notice we will no longer be talking about these islands. So it's been a lot of fun exploring and learning about them, and it has definitely made my trip more fun to think about, and it definitely has helped me plan it out a lot better, because I actually do know a lot more about the Galapagos because of this. So if you've been watching along with me, you probably have an insight into the Galapagos that few others do. So, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider donating to the Internet Archive. That's all I gotta say. That's my closing statement. Just donate to the Internet Archive. That's where I get these videos from. If you want to help this channel, help the Internet Archive, donate to them, not to me. Cut to black.